First Mining Gold has just received a final $5 million payment from First Majestic Silver. It's part of a silver deal linked to its Springpole gold project in northwestern Ontario. The two companies agreed to update their payment terms earlier this month. First Mining has also extended the deadline and reduced the price on share warrants it gave First Majestic. The Springpole project is one of Canada's largest undeveloped gold sites. First Mining CEO Dan Wilton joins me now to touch on what this deal means going forward. Dan, thanks very much indeed for chatting to us.
Well, thanks for having us. It's great to see you again.
Well, great news this morning. You raised this money in what is still a challenging market for gold developers, despite what's happening with a high gold price at the moment. What does this mean for First Mining?
Well, for us, it's some funding that comes in at a pretty important time. We're still in a level of pretty elevated spend as we are going through the final stages of the environmental assessment process at Springpole. We think of it as it's really modifying a deal to bring forward some of the capital that we would have been expecting to receive late this year or early next year. So, I think take it as a sign of confidence from our partners at First Majestic about the progress that we're making at Springpole.
I recall speaking to you in December, and First Mining at that time had just submitted their final EA for the Springpole Gold project. What has happened since then? And I'm wondering, what are the next steps in the process?
Yeah, a lot is the short answer. So we submitted that final EA in November. It was deemed by the Federal Impact Assessment Agency to be conforming to our terms of reference in early December. And then it went out for a public comment period. So all members of the public, and including a number of the communities that we're working with, have since provided us and the regulators detailed comments on the final EA. And we're now in this process of comment response where we received most of the federal, well, all of the federal and most of the provincial first round of comments have come back to us. We've responded to many of those at this point. But we're in this kind of back and forth, the final kind of back and forth period here, where we are taking these comments and ultimately responding to those, making sure that the regulators are comfortable that they have all the information that they need, including incorporating some really important feedback and work we've received from Indigenous communities that we're working with, and how we're going to incorporate those in the final environmental assessment document that they need to write, and ultimately then how those can get addressed through some of the conditions that come through with the environmental assessment approval.
Yeah. Now, you ask anyone in any economic fraternity at the moment on what's happening with those tariffs coming from the Donald Trump administration, and they'll tell you that perhaps the economic uncertainty is more devastating than the tariff itself. I'm wondering, how does this affect your project?
I think for us, what we are seeing broadly in Canada, I think you're seeing it around the world, is a much greater desire to be able to control your own destiny. And I think what that means for Canada specifically is an ability to move forward resource projects in a timely fashion. And a lot of things that were kind of put on the side, whether it's, energy projects, electricity, connecting electric grids, moving Canadian energy to other markets through pipelines, or developing, critical and precious metal projects. All of those things, I think we've never seen a greater public awareness of the need to move these projects forward. That's getting translated, and we're seeing it, in all of the election campaigns. We saw it through the province of Ontario, a real commitment to get these projects moving forward to help buffer some of the challenges that the manufacturing sectors are going to have through these tariffs. But for us, in the end, it's not all bad news. I mean, they're not putting a tariff on gold. Of that, I'm reasonably sure. And if they do, we'll sell it other places, because you can, the nice thing about gold is it's a massive global market. A lot of the inputs you need to build a project, things like steel, are going to be industries that are going to have tough times in the wake of all of these tariffs. So we could be a good source of demand for Canadian steel producers, for Canadian skilled labor. A lot of the auto sector in Southern Ontario, where you have a ton of skilled trades, I've been saying to people, this is a once in a generation opportunity for the mining industry broadly, not just us, to really attract that talent to the industry to, allow us to build these projects, more effectively. So I think projects, large projects like Springpole that are going to drive meaningful infrastructure into Northwestern Ontario, open up a bunch of other projects around there and to the north of us with, roads and power lines that are coming up to where we are. I think it's a massive opportunity that's now being recognized by not just the rest of the populations, but it's being recognized by our elected or soon to be elected leaders. And it's being recognized by the gold industry and gold producers more broadly.
Let's talk about the domestic political climate, right? We're in the middle of an election right now. Canada and then, of course, Ontario just re-elected provincial Conservative government. What does that mean for First Mining?
Certainly with the Ontario election, it's a lot of the same leadership that we've been working with for years. They have good relationships really and support all the way through the province of Ontario, whether it's the Ministry of Mines, Ministry of Natural Resources, Ministry of Environment, really, all the way through. People recognize this is a major project to be developed in an area where we need projects built. So for us, it's actually a lot of consistency on that front with a government that has a new mandate really to get things going. And that is music to our ears, obviously.
And then, Dan, since we spoke, this gold price is relentless. At an all-time high, $3,000 US. You convert that to Canadian, you're looking at $4,000 or above that. Your projects in Canada, what does this mean in terms of value?
Well, the simple math that we tell our investors is every $100 in the gold price is $250 million of after-tax net present value to our projects. Now, there's been some cost escalation, and we appreciate that. But you got to remember, we were talking about this earlier, we scoped our Du-Parquet project a year and a half ago at an $1,800 gold price. Like, that seems like a long, long way ago in this industry right now. So you update that, between those two things, you're talking about $1,200 gold times $250 million US. It's like $3 billion US of value. In addition, just on the gold price, when, we're sitting here today with a market cap of, about 150 million Canadian dollars. So it's really just exacerbated that disconnect between our share price and the fundamental value of our projects.
So Dan, as we wrap up, we spoke a lot about Springpole. What's happening at Du-Parquet?
Du-Parquet, we have drills turning right now. We're very excited going back into testing some of the north contact zones that we've really discovered and started delineating over the last year. We're confident Du-Parquet is on its way to a 10 million ounce project in the middle of the most sought after gold belt in the world. And so, a lot of our attention is taken up on Springpole and moving forward through the environmental assessment process. Some meaningful milestones coming up on that side, but never lose sight of Du-Parquet, because I think Du-Parquet justifies multiples of our current market cap right now in our share price. So there we go. Lots going on.
Oh, well, thanks very much indeed. Well, First Mining CEO Dan Wilton, thanks indeed for talking to us.
Thanks again.